August 4th, 2011. Some 24 hours of no sleep as my wife was in labor. She spent the entire day before adjusting, got done with her last adjustment at 6:45. Her water broke 2 hours later. Here I am, 6 o'clock in the morning, exhausted. Do you know what it's like to be a guy when your wife's going through labor? Man. I mean, she at least had breaks between the contractions. I had some friggin' work to do. But I'll never forget this moment as I sat there with her and we did an at-home birth, and just to let you know, in the state of Illinois, that is illegal. But we had an at-home birth. We did a water birth in our wine room with an inflatable tub partially filled with water. She made her way into that tub at 6 a.m. And I sat there rubbing her back, and in between contractions, she would put her head on the side. And I had that moment that BJ talks about. I had the thought flash. And I thought to myself, if I didn't know what I knew, if I didn't understand what I understood, I would be in a hospital right now with my wife. And if I were in that hospital, I would be asking them to give her something. Couldn't you give her something to speed this along? This is crazy. She's tired. I'm exhausted. There's got to be something that you can do to help this along. She wasn't complaining. She wasn't having that grueling experience that you see on TV. She was just resting her head. And in that moment, it hit me. Like something that I have heard from platforms for years. Something I've even said from platforms for years. But this time, it had more meaning. Because within the hour or hours, I was going to have my firstborn child. If they knew what you knew, they would do what you do. We are not ordinary, right? My wife and I we're not the norm because we had an at-home birth. In fact, people thought we were crazy for doing so. But if they knew what we knew about the human body, they might have made different decisions. Correct? Yes or yes? But they don't know what you know. They don't know what I know. So I sat there and continued to rub her back. And I said, Troy, don't you ever forget this. Because although it's had an impact in my life for years prior, now it meant more to me. Because people don't know what you and I know. They have an outside-in philosophy. We have an inside-out philosophy. So although we look crazy to them, they look crazy to us. We can't understand why they would vaccinate. We can't understand why they wouldn't consider having a natural childbirth. We can't understand why they would take organs out of a perfectly functioning human body. We don't understand that approach. They don't understand ours. But yet we want people to get chiropractic. We want people to understand what we do. If we want them to get it, we have to empower them and stop putting them down. How many people, I saw this earlier, how many people are on Facebook? You want to see how chiropractors put people down? Go to Facebook. We put our own profession down. We tell parents that they're dumb if they get their kids vaccinated. Is that pulling people towards chiropractic or away? It makes us look crazier than they already think we are. And the fact of the matter is that there are people out there who want something different. They just don't know what different is. Imagine if we stopped pulling them away and we started empowering them and started communicating with them and said, look, I understand where you come from. Can I share something different? What would happen to this world if we took a different approach in our communication? What would happen with this world if we started to empower and lift people up instead of continually putting them down? We want to get to 18%, yes or yes? We will not do it if we keep putting people down. And we've got to start in a really important place, folks. You know where we have to start? Right here. This room. Here's what's unacceptable. That frickin' chair right there is vacant. There's somebody not sitting there that could have been here this weekend to have a program that could have shifted their life and their paradigm to go out and help us to save more people. And that chair, and that chair. You want to get me fired up? Put me in a room filled with chiropractors that's not filled with chiropractors. It's not filled the way it should be. Now, let me make something clear. I honor every single one of you, and I thank you for sharing time with me this afternoon. I love that you're here. I appreciate that you're here. But our brothers and sisters aren't. And there is a doctor right now sitting at home who is struggling in practice, who you know that should have been here. What are you doing to empower that brother or sister in chiropractic? What are you doing to empower them and get them to show up to a program like this? Because they exist. 2011 is a really good year. In 2011, I was driving down from a program in Colorado Springs called Total Solution. Any Total Solution grads in here? It's a CLA program. And I hopped on my flight, and I had my layover in Dallas. And I did what every red-blooded American does when they have a layover and the plane lands, right? You're waiting for touchdown. Because the minute the wheels hit the ground, you're like, well, got to see if anybody texted me. Anybody call? I do it because I want to make sure that my wife knows that I landed safely on this leg of the journey. And when I did it, there was an email that came through. And I got this email from a doctor who had just spent 4 days with me up at this program. And we're going to protect the innocent, we'll call him Jim. And he says in this email, I have to thank you because you saved my life this weekend. And I'm not using this term metaphorically, like you brought me back as a chiropractor. You literally saved my life. Before going to this program, I was considering committing suicide. He's a father of 2 kids, a husband. This doctor was on multiple medications, antidepressants, anti-anxiety medicine, and a chiropractor who was on pain medication. He said, I was at my wit's end, and before I came to this program, I was considering taking my own life and dwarfing my entire family. He said, because I heard you speak and spent those 4 days with you, you ignited something in me that said, I can't do this. It's not about me. It's about my family. It's about my purpose in this world. It's about growing up and knowing that I'm making a difference in my life as a man, as a husband, as a father, and then a chiropractor. You show up as the person that you need to be every single day. He wasn't showing up that way. So he found his purpose in life. He found a greater vision, something that was bigger than who he is, which gave him a greater reason for living in this world. And think of the impact for that one person, because now this one person, not only does it have a positive impact on his life, his wife, and his kids, he can now go into his practice and save more lives of the people of the community. If he didn't show up, he commits suicide, leaving behind his family. We never know the ripple effect that that has in his family. And what about his community? What now? Kind of hits home, doesn't it? Who here knows one person that's not here this weekend that should be here? The whole flipping room. So the question, and I'm not going to do what people do from the stage. Okay, well, how about you promise you bring him next time? And some people go, yeah, I'm going to do it, and you'll text him right now. And we still don't see the results. It doesn't change anything. What'll change something is when you take it to heart. When you take it to heart and say, you know what, if this is about empowerment, I need to empower the people of this profession so that we can go out and help more people. Doesn't that make sense? We don't succeed when a chiropractic brother or sister fails. Somebody gets knocked down, we reach out the hand and we pull them up. We don't kick them when they're down. So the person that you know that needs to be here, what if you were to spend the next 2 months communicating with them? Talking to them about why they don't show up. Talking to them about what their needs are. Talking to them about their philosophy and where they're at in this life. And ask, what can I do to help? What can I do to support you? See, it changes the paradigm, because what we do as chiropractors is the same thing we do with patients. We go home and say, Joe, you got to go to the seminar with me. It was freaking awesome. Oh, yeah, it was cool. Well, what'd you learn? Oh, my God, there's so much. I can't even tell you everything right now. Well, tell me something. Well, I can't. I'm just so on fire, man. And so you're trying to sell them to coming, and what happens? Nothing. We do the same thing with patients. Yeah, hi, I'm a chiropractor. Oh, you're a chiropractor. Yeah, well, my neck hurts. What can you do about it? Oh, well, here's what I do as a chiropractor. And function, and health, and subluxation. And the person's looking like, what the hell are you talking about? You just met him at Target. They got no flipping idea. How about you open up a conversation? The saying has never been more true. They never care how much you know until they know how much you care. Ask them questions. Ask them what they've been doing. Ask them how this happened in their life. Ask them what they've tried to help to make a difference in their life. Ask them what they're looking for in their life. Stop trying to get the one and done new patient. We do it in healthcare classes, don't we? We get done with the healthcare class, we say, okay, so if you like what you heard today, go over here and sign up with Beverly. You can come in for a new patient exam. And for those of you who didn't like it and don't want to come in, screw off. That's what we say. That's what we're telling people. Imagine that you actually said, okay, so for those of you, I know there's people in this audience today that it just resonates. The message I share with you completely resonates 100%. And for you, I'm going to have you go over here, and Beverly's going to go ahead and process you, and she's going to go ahead and get you in the book so you can come in for an examination so we can identify if chiropractic might be a right fit for you. And there's other people in this room right now that I know have further questions. And for you, what I want you to do is fill out that form that's in front of you right now. And where it says question, write down that question, and I am going to personally answer that question for you. Write down your email address. I will not junk mail you. I am going to personally answer that question because what I know is that when you have the appropriate information that you need, you can make more educated decisions about your health. And then you continue, thank you, the guy who almost clapped and the person who said woo, thank you. Because it is good. Because what it does is it says, I'm going to form a relationship with you instead of letting 10 people walk out of a room never to be seen again, but you're happy because you got 5 new patients. Think relationship building, people, and if I can stay in touch with these people, and I'll stay in contact over the course of the next 3 to 5 weeks, I will send them personalized emails, and then they're going to get put into our email blast within our office, so they're still getting information. You keep them in a file over here, and you reach out to them at least twice a month after that. Developing a relationship. You know what happens with these people? Even if they don't come in, they refer to you. They refer to your practice. Why? Because I empowered them. Why? Because they're better educated. So they're willing to share with people what we do. Anybody want to say, that was pretty good, Troy? Go ahead, say it. That was pretty good, Troy. Oh, and awesome, I like that too, thank you. So look, it's all about empowerment. It's all about empowerment. So if you know somebody who needs to be here, don't just say, rah, rah, I'm going to get them here. Contact them, reach out, get to know them, find out what's going on, and invite them to the next program. Be their seminar buddy next time, and stay with them and take them through the process so that they don't feel like they're alone, because too many chiropractors feel like they're alone. And they don't have to feel that way. When you come to a program like this, you're amongst family. When I get up on a stage, I know I'm speaking to family. That's the attitude that I take. And as a family, we're in this together. And the only way we're going to change the world is together. Because it's all about those people. You know who those people are? The patients. It's all about them. It's all about what happens when we empower them and take them to a different level in their lives. You know, there's of the thousands of stories I can pull out and share with you, for some reason, Bob is still the one I have to talk about. Bob is the guy that was, when he came to our office, on 57 different medications, 221 pills a day, and enough liquid morphine that would take any person in this room out right now. When he had cancer in his right lung from Agent Orange when he was in the war. He had post-traumatic stress disorder. When they took his lung out, they cut the long thoracic nerve. And to make the surgery even more fun, afterwards, they dropped him on his back and fractured T4. Bob had low back pain that was so severe that they wanted to sever his lumbar spine, thinking that that would help him with the problem. This is the guy who was just a walking zombie. 1 year later, Bob goes from 57 different medications to 28, 221 pills a day to just under 110 pills a day. Bob got his life back. A man who was only sleeping about 3 hours a night and then curling up in a corner because he just tore his house apart looking for weapons was now sleeping 4 to 5 hours a night. And Bob took me into the adjusting room after his first year. We walk into the adjusting room, he looks at me and he says, Dr. Troy, I got to tell you something. If it wasn't for you, if it wasn't for Dr. Leah, if it wasn't for chiropractic, I wouldn't be here today. Because before I came here a year ago, I was this close to committing suicide. Chiropractic has saved my life. Let me tell you something, folks. You know what we did that was so different? Nothing. We told them the truth. The truth needs no help. The truth just needs to be told. The truth needs no help. The truth just needs to be told. We sat in a day one and we listened to what he had to say because Bob needed to be heard. And then we shared with Bob what it is that we do as chiropractors. Brain, spinal cord, nervous system, interference, subluxation, adjustment. Keep it simple, man. And he got it. In a year, and I want you to hear, we saw him 3 times a week for a year. For 1 year. And some technique guru right now is like, oh, well, you must not have been adjusting him right then. Tell that to Bob, who got his life back. Tell that to Bob, who is now counseling other vets, who is doing frickin' yoga, and the dude's like bigger than me. Tell that to Bob. What did we have to do? We had to tell Bob the truth. Who do you, because I know when I talk about the truth, there isn't a person in this room who doesn't have someone they need to share the truth with. You might have a patient right now who is your Bob. You go, oh my God, that's my inspiration. I mean, Bob is one of those reasons, all the patients that we take care of, like Bob's one of those reasons. I think about Bob, I go, that's why I do what I do. Jim, that's why I travel. That's why I do what I do. It's the fire behind it all. This is our why. This is why we do what we do. Who's your Bob? Who's that person that you think about that just gets you going? And I have stories about kids. I have stories about moms and pregnancies and all stuff. Bob is just in my freaking heart, man, because he was that close to death. It's just where I'm at. But we told him the truth. Who do you need to speak up to empower more? You can't see somebody 3 times a week for a year if they're not educated and empowered. Yes or yes? They have to be, right? There's no friggin' way you're going to do it unless they're educated and they're empowered to do such a thing. Who is it that you need to speak up to? There's 5 people right now in your practice that you're questioning if they understand chiropractic and what you do. So why not go in on Monday and ask them? Just ask them the question, do you know what we do? Do you know why we do it? See what they have to say. It's okay if they don't know. Monday becomes a new day where you can actually start educating them, where you can actually start lifting them up and taking them down a different road. I'm a movie buff. I'm watching a movie on the plane last night called The Judge. Anybody heard this one? Yeah. So the quote that this woman says is, whatever has or hasn't happened in the past, I'm going to be the hero of my own story. Whatever has or hasn't happened in the past, I'm going to be the hero of my own story. So you can leave after 2 days of getting dipped at a program and say, I am going to rewrite my story. I am going to write a story that's bigger and better than I've ever dreamed. I am going to go share the truth with people. I am going to go tell them the chiropractic story. I'm going to go talk about this thing called innate intelligence. I'm going to go talk to them about the nervous system and subluxation and the power of the chiropractic adjustment. You can be the hero of your own story. You have to leave here being willing to go out and empower the people of the community, communicating to people and speaking up about this message of above, down, inside out. As my dear friend Dr. Eric Russell says, don't make it a bumper sticker philosophy, because that's what we do in chiropractic. Above, down, inside out, and we go rah, rah, and we kind of walk out, but it doesn't mean anything. You have to talk to your patients about it and help them to understand what it means. Help them to understand the magnificent healing powers of the human body. That the body needs no help, it just needs no interference. We have to empower people. We have to empower people if we want to change this world. If we want to tip that point, we've got to empower them. A couple key things I want to share with you about, everybody's had quotes today, like people are pulling out, like Brett was like, cool, man, he pulls out a freaking rap out of his jacket, and I'm like, dude was on. And I'm more of a techno geek. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. The single biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it's taken place. People will only comprehend and remember 10 to 20% of what you tell them. If you want people to learn more, to understand more, if you want to empower them, you have to communicate on a different level. That's why people talk about being Socratic, asking people questions. Ask them what it means to them. Use things like novelty items in your practice. We give everybody a cell phone. We say, what's a cell phone have to do with chiropractic? Because now they have to turn around holding the cell phone and explaining to us what this has to do with their health and chiropractic. When you involve people and you have something in their hand or something that they can use and point to, you increase their learning and comprehension to 70 to 90%. You think that creates empowerment? Right? Better educated patients can be more empowered. So we have to look at the way we were communicating. Stop telling people what to do and invite them in a conversation. Second one, many attempts to communicate are nullified by saying too much. I'm going to make this one really simple. Okay, lean forward. Okay, this is really important. Lean forward. Lean forward, everybody. Even you, lean forward. Lean forward. Lean forward. Lean, and I'll tell you. Okay, I'm going to keep this simple in 2 words. Shut up. It's that simple. Shut up. Because you know what we do? We go into a report of findings and we start talking. And we start talking too much. And your patient, your freaking patient is sitting there in the chair like, do you understand? Yeah. Are you sure? Yeah. Because they don't want to say no. And then what do they say at the end? Doc, great information. I got to tell you, I got to go home and think about it, though, because, man, there's a lot of information here. So I need to go home and think about it and talk to my spouse. Anybody ever heard that one before? You're confusing people. And confused people don't buy. Write that one down. Confused people don't buy. So keep it simple. Go in, deliver a message. Keep it simple, but pay attention to the patient. Pay attention to their body language. Pay attention to how they're moving. Pay attention to everything that they're doing in their interaction with you. Because if they don't get it, they'll show you. Sometimes they do this. And when they do that, it usually means they have no freaking clue what you're saying. So shut up and start over and do this. Mary, before we move further, I just want to make sure that this makes complete sense to you because this is your body and it's your health. So what I'd like you to do is share with me what you just heard me say about this portion of your x-ray, about subluxation, about your health. And then shut up. You want to know what they know? Ask them. Ask them. And if they don't know, they'll let you know. And now I can share a different methodology of explaining it to them. Just ask, but you got to shut up. And then finally, the third quote I wanted to share with you. Communication works for those who work at it. Communication works for those who work at it. You know what that means? Practice. Freaking practice. Who here, I don't want to ask this question, but I'm going to. Who here does a healthcare class? Raise your hands if you do a healthcare class. And yet we think we're going to create a tipping point in this profession. We're never going to do it if we don't get out of our freaking chairs, stand up in front of a group of people and tell them what we do. It's just not going to happen. And I've been traveling this country, and I hate such a strong word, but I ask that question, and it just gets under my skin because I always get less than 10% of a room. You want to change your practice on Monday? Go in your office, schedule to do a healthcare class, stand up in front of your patients and tell them the frickin' truth. That's it. And schedule another one for 2 weeks. And schedule another one for 2 weeks. But practice it. Practice. You got the Hawks down here. They're doing all right in hoops right now, right? Watch them when they stand at the free throw line. You know what they do? They visualize and practice before they ever get the ball in their hand. They do that in front of 20,000 people, and yet chiropractors are afraid to stand in their own office with nobody in there and practice a healthcare class. We have to practice I'm in the office 2 days a week with my wife, Mondays and Wednesdays. When I leave the office, I actually rehearse every conversation that I've had with the patient. Because I'm practicing my patient communications. I practice our healthcare classes. I'm almost 20 years in this game. I'm still practicing because I want to make sure that when I go out and present myself to the people of our community, that I present myself as an authority, that somebody who knows what they're talking about, somebody who can inspire, and somebody who can empower them to make better decisions about their health and wellness. If you truly want to make that decision, you truly want to make that change, you truly want to see people rise up, you truly want to empower people, is that what you want? Because if that's what you want, then you got to get off your ass and get out there and start telling the story. You got to get out there and start talking to people. You got to get out there and muster up the courage to let people know what it means to see a chiropractor. Empower the masses. And if we empower the masses together, I will go home and do it on Monday. And you go and do it on Monday. And students, don't think being a student gets you out of this. You go home and start practicing talking about chiropractic and talk to other people about it. And when you do, that does not look like me. And when you do, I promise you, we will hit that tipping point. Thank you very much for having me here and let me share. God bless you all. Thank you.